Hi everybody, it's Jasmine and Joe from House of Stereo, and we have something super special to talk to you about today. This is the Focal Diva Utopia. This is the first active speaker from the Focal name partnership. This is a three-way bass reflex active speaker system. Before we get into really the speaker, why don't we talk about Focal itself as a company?
Focal is a really neat company, and they have a big place here in our shop. They've been a partner of ours for a number of years. We, in building the new shop, decided to create a Focal Powered by Name Experience Center as part of our shop. So, company that I really believe in. Focal, a rough 40-plus year French firm. They used to make drivers for other companies. I believe they made drivers for Wilson. They made drivers for Eggleston and other that I'm aware of. But they decided to pull back and bought a cabinet factory and started making products for themselves. About 12, 13 years ago, the Focal Group acquired Name Electronics, which is a 50-plus year, very venerable audio brand from England. So those two companies together, Focal Name, put their engineers together and said, what can you do? Let's come up with a product that gives us the best of both worlds. And this is the culmination of that project.
And so even though we're familiar with Focal and Name working together, this is the first time that they have done a singular product with both of them coming together to create the final Diva that we see here.
Right. Yeah. So, anywhere in the shop, you'll see the Focal amps, streamers, DACs, preamps, all of the name products are represented here, and you're going to find them with Focal speakers here in the shop. But this is truly a Focal speaker with Name inside. So this is their entrance to the active market. And there are a number of companies that have active products, but there has never been a speaker at this level. So the Focal Grand Utopias are probably one of the most recognizable speakers in the world, and they have a number of models underneath the Grand Utopias, but they all have that Utopia sound, that just amazing, almost just some of my favorite high-end audio sound is encapsulated in the entire Utopia line. Well, now this active speaker is truly a Utopia level speaker, but just add phone. There's no electronics that need to go with this. You take it out of the box, you set it up, and you have absolutely amazing sound quality. So their entrance into the active market is just world class.
So let's talk about something you just said.
Okay.
No electronics whatsoever. And then we're going to take a step backward.
Okay.
But if you look behind us, there is simply just a remote control sitting there.
Yep.
No electronics at all. So the only thing needed to make these sound incredible are the speakers themselves and the cables that they came with, which are just plugs.
Yeah, just add phone. So the Name supplied the MP800 streaming module, which is the same as all of the Name Electronics devices that are network capable. It's the same streaming built into the speaker. You could literally install the Focal Name app, which is incidentally one of the most well thought out and easy to use apps in our entire industry. And connect it to Qobuz, connect it to Tidal, Spotify, and then of course Name Radio. They've always been famous for their internet radio stations and this and that, but the whole world is encapsulated in your phone, and it works seamlessly and wirelessly with these speakers. That being said, it's not all just about phone. So they have an audio return channel, HDMI port. They have RCA inputs and a couple other inputs that we'll look at in just a second and talk more about. But what we did at the Capital Audio Fest this year, where incidentally we debuted the Diva Utopias to the public for the first time, we had a turntable plugged in with a phono stage. So you can have an active speaker and still utilize your components if you choose. But as streaming becomes more prevalent, more and more we're seeing sometimes it's just easier to, rather than breaking out the CD player, it's easier to stream these days. But a lot of people, myself included, I want that option. I want to be able to bring my turntable into the mix.
Of course, we always want options.
Yeah.
So should we talk about just kind of setup in general?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning,
All right.
because Focal has really made this as simple as possible. And it starts even just with the packaging. So unpackaging these, as you know, I did this on my own just to show that this can be a truly one-person setup.
Yep.
And I mean directly out of the box. They come with these cool wooden ramps. You slide them right under the wheels in the box, and you wheel the speaker right out into place. It's super easy.
I didn't mean to let her set them up, but I was supposed to help. I was a little bit distracted, but I walked out. They were already done. So
I do have something about myself that I do.
good job on that, honestly. But yeah, so the ramp, you wheel them out. So it really is one person can do this. Gosh, how many speaker and system setups have we done where we're all just cables here, you know, lifting the heavy electronics there. These speakers have wheels on the bottom of them, so they literally just come out. You set them in place, and then you start the setup.
So then from there, getting them ready to play is as simple as plugging them directly into the wall. You can use a network cable, but it's not necessary. But of course, here at the shop, we do have a network cable.
Always, yeah.
So we're talking about 3 cables.
Yeah.
And you're ready to go.
Yeah. And so they can communicate with each other wirelessly, or you can use a network cable between them. We haven't done any serious listening to if there's a difference. If there is, I suspect it's fairly minuscule. This is using a special wireless technology, point-to-point wiring. I believe it's called WDS. And so very low latency, just very fast, very efficient talking to each other.
Focal actually promises no perceptible latency, even without the use of connecting the speakers together.
And in our listening, we did notice that I didn't hear anything. There was nothing perceptible. So let's talk a little bit about the speakers themselves. For the audiophiles and well, actually, let's talk about this market. So as a hardcore audiophile, I suppose, active speakers are somewhat of a conundrum because I like my amps, I like my preamps, I like my DACs, I like my cables. That is the industry to me. But when I can get music on this level, when I can get sound quality on this level, it really kind of changes your perspective. I don't know that the hardcore audiophiles are who Focal is going after in trying to market a product like this. I think it's anybody who wants good sound quality and a very beautiful package and easy to use. And it really speaks to a company's capabilities when they can take something so technical and make it easy. And that's what they've done. So for me, I want these. I want these very badly. I want to put them in my house. I don't know that I'm going to give up my amplifiers and my passive speakers, but this is something I can also have. But what I'm hoping is that a lot of the people who love music but don't want to deal with the what are the ohms, what is the rating, how many watts, this and that, you know, that audiophile pursuit, people just want sound sometimes. And if it's this easy, then I think Focal is making this world a lot more accessible to those people.
I agree.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm like you. I like my components. I like my preamps and my amplifiers and all my things that I get to turn on. But at the same time, you know, that's a main listening system. And many of us don't settle on just one listening system in our homes.
Right.
Many of us have multiples, and we're not necessarily looking to have something at that same level in the other rooms with tons of money invested in components.
Right.
So it becomes, how do we get the best possible sound? And we probably don't have room for another rack in another room.
My wife would kill me.
Right.
My kids would kill me. Yeah.
So this is a really simple solution for that.
And when you think about it, what would it take to reproduce sound on this quality with separate components? And the answer is probably a heck of a lot more than these cost at retail. You know,
sure.
this is a for us, it's not a system replacement, but I think that this is a system for a lot of people out there. And so I don't want to go too much into the technical of it. Now we're going to, but it's almost not necessary. Like I said, they have taken something so technical and made it easy that it's almost like it doesn't matter, just listen to it. But what they have done is they have created basically 4 different amplifiers and 75 watts for the tweeter, 75 watts for the mid-range, and then on each side of the speaker are 2 6.5-inch drivers. And each of those 2 driver complements has 125 watt amplification driving them. Now this is Class AB. It is not a Class D amplifier, which kind of makes the audiophile in me happy.
Of course, always.
Now Class D has arrived. It has gotten to the point where Class D, there is a very definite high end in Class D. But I like that this is AB. You know?
And you know, it's immediately apparent because of the heat sinks on the back.
Right.
A Class
Right.
D amplifier would not need
Doesn't
heat
need,
sinks
yeah.
that are like
Yep.
here. And those heat sinks are, you know, they have an important reason for being there, and
Right.
that's to dissipate the heat,
Right.
of course.
But it also looks good.
It does look
you know,
good.
it's,
It does
if you're
look
if
good.
you're approaching it from the back, the speaker does look really
course.
awesome.
Of course.
Now, getting into more of, you know, what is this thing made of? If you are familiar with the Focal Canta series speakers, Canta has this very distinctive face. It's a very beautiful composite. It's a polymer face, and they used it because it's so inert and rigid that they were able to mount the drivers to it and really create a one-of-a-kind speaker, which is the Canta line. Well, they use that same polymer to build the skeleton of this speaker that holds everything in place. So what you have is this very rigid, very inert box that is holding these drivers and controlling them. And then, of course, if we're looking at the design, now I want Jasmin to talk a bit more about that because she's a little bit more in tune with the aesthetics of things.
Well, immediately it looks very different from anything that we've seen before.
Yeah.
We have this gray heathered, very, very dense felt material that's on here. And it's actually removable. So, and very simply removable. And in the future, what we're expecting from Focal is to have different pieces that can replace what you see here so you can coordinate it to your home, however you like it. And what I expect to see would be things like probably piano lacquer finishes, probably wood grain finishes. I may or may not have seen some photos showing possible finishes coming out. I think people will be very, very pleased with the options that Focal will be presenting to us probably in 2025.
Yeah, we're going to see some coming in 25. Now, and that's a new thing entirely, as well as the concept of being able to take your existing speaker and add something new to it to change the aesthetics of it. So you change your living room, you get new furniture, you move to a new house, and suddenly the finish you had before doesn't work. Well, for a lot of people, that meant selling the speakers and getting a new pair of speakers. Well, the ability to adapt these to your living situation and to your aesthetic, that's really important. I mean, that's a really handy thing. So the wood finishes are what I'm most interested in. I think the lines and the design of the speaker are, it's very new. It's very futuristic.
For sure.
And adding a beautiful wood grain to it, like the Bien Blanc or the Cerakote wood, could really make this thing stand out. And, you know, as they've done with other Utopia series, they're probably going to do an artist series where they bring artists in to do one-of-a-kind versions. So you could have a truly one-of-a-kind speaker there in your living room that is a piece of art. So that's cool.
Very cool.
Tell me about the drivers.
Okay, so this is a new beryllium driver. This is custom to the Diva Utopia.
Okay.
If you can see the screen on here, the driver cover does have like a very cool red coloring on the inside. And this is the M driver, which provides additional rigidity for the driver, for the beryllium tweeter.
So the M profile. So
The
if
M
you
profile.
look at it, it's an inverted dome tweeter that Focal is famous for, beryllium that Focal is famous for, but it looks like an M shape, and that is new. So this is an entirely new driver to the Utopia line. The mid-range, similar. It's the same. What is it? Space material.
It is. And this is actually what we've seen from Focal before. It's the W driver, the W profile.
Right. Right.
And then we have, like you said already, so this is a 6.5-inch mid bass.
Okay.
And then on the sides we have the woofers, and those are also 6.5 inches as well, and 4 in total, like we've already said.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about the drivers here. The other thing you might notice is this logo. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it does light up, which is a cool feature. It does let you know that the speaker is on.
It looks pretty neat in the dark.
It does.
It's just kind of floating there. And what's nice is these speakers do go to sleep. So when you open the app and go to the Divas, they actually come on automatically. So it's really a neat effect, and that light, kind of glows to life. So really cool aesthetic there.
Very much so. So then we already talked about the amplification, but again, it's probably worth mentioning that there are 4 amplifiers.
Right.
And each driver has its dedicated amplifier.
And that's producing a total of 400 watts. So
Yes.
75, 75, and then 125
and
aside.
125.
So we've got 6 drivers here, 4 amplifiers, and so what they've done is, and by doing that, you are able to really tune each section to be the best version of itself that it can be. In the general speaker building world, the speaker designer must anticipate or attempt to anticipate all amplifiers, all rooms, and find the best means and averages of basically an infinite number of possibilities of how those speakers are going to be used. With an active speaker like this, they're controlling down to the micrometer every aspect of the design, every aspect of the performance. And so a company as storied and famous and just great as name, pairing with a company like Focal to both do that, I knew that this speaker was coming. I've known about it for several years. I had to be very tight-lipped, but they asked me to keep quiet, and I did. So anyways, we knew it was going to be special. They knew that it was going to be special. It took 12, 13 years for them to really bring a product to market, and they wanted to do it right, and they have. I mean, these are amazing. This changes a lot of things in my mind.
So let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on the inside aside from the amplification.
Okay.
So each driver actually has its own DAC as well. So we have a series of DACs inside.
Okay.
And I think we mentioned this in the beginning, but I'm not sure. So this has a built-in streamer.
Right.
I know we said network cable, but I don't want to assume that everybody knows that there is a built-in streamer in here.
Right.
So it's everything that you would need to drive it. The other thing that we have going on the inside is the brain of the system, which is the DSP.
Right.
And I know we've played around with it a little bit. And the thing that's very cool about this DSP is that the user gets to utilize their own ears to set this to how it should sound.
For them.
For them, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was a really cool experience when we sat there and played around with it with the different adjustments. And you go through multiple different adjustments. Which hopefully we might be able to show in this video a little bit of what that looks like for the user to get an idea. Because it's a little difficult to explain it. It's a little easier if somebody could see it.
Yep. And so this is a really neat use case is, let's say you have some issues, some hearing issues. Let's say that, normally your balance is a little bit off. So using the app, you can tune these to your ears. And so it is not just a microphone that you sit down, walk out of the room and let it go to work. No. You are truly dialing this in for your listening experience. So that's a very new take on the audiophile world and how to tune speakers in. So very smart, very effective, just very good ideas from Focal name.
For sure.
We saw these in 2023. We're in California, big Focal summit of a lot of the Focal Powered by Name shops. So, the big guys in America and all of Cedric and Arnaud and all the French guys, we all got together and looked at the roadmap. And so I saw these speakers coming, and it's been tough to keep tight-lipped about it. It was, I've been wanting to talk about these for a long time. So our opportunity to hear them for the first time and debut them at Capitol Audio Fest was really, it was amazing. As one of those must hear, must see. And we had these in a room with the Focal Grand Utopias. So the line was out the door to get in all weekend. And so we would have to go from the Focal, the Grand Utopias, over to the Divas, back and forth all weekend. And a lot of people, reviewers and the public included, are just absolutely amazed.
So there's something else which, we don't often necessarily think about. Well, we do think about it, but this kind of solves it.
Okay.
You really don't have any chance of blowing your speaker with this setup,
Right.
because we're talking about the company has made everything inside. So
Right.
they know all the parameters for the inputs and the outputs.
Right.
They know the thermal parameters of
Right.
this. So clearly they're not going to make something that would put the speaker
In danger,
in
yeah.
danger of blowing or overheating.
So they've thrown some controls in. So if you're trying to play it too loud or trying to make it do something that it can't do, there's a
Correct.
safety check.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice because my kids already have the Focal Name app on there because they have the headphones. And so the Focal Name app, by the way, the same app, whether it's the Batiste headphones or any of the streamers, you have one app for the entire ecosystem, which is, I think, a very smart, very easy way to do things. So my kids sitting there playing around with their friends might try to throw it all the way up, and that's peace of mind for me to know that they can't hurt them that way.
Correct.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the sound a little bit.
Okay.
So let's step back to Capitol Audio Fest, right? So we have this room with the Grand Utopias in them, and then on another section of the room we have the Divas.
Right.
I was honestly very surprised by how many people specifically came to the room for the Divas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's always in awe over the Grand Utopias, of
Yep.
course, and we expect that.
Yep.
But many people came in and said, I'm here for the Divas. The feedback that we got at the show was super positive.
Yep.
People were incredibly impressed. And at that time, these were fresh out of the box.
Yeah.
There was no break-in. We left them on overnight, which gave us maybe 8 hours of break-in. but
Yeah,
that was it.
we started the audio show with 8 hours on these speakers, which is something you should never do if you're trying to put your best foot forward audio-wise.
Sure, but that's the situation we were in, so we did the best we could. Then we get them back to the shop, right? And we have all our normal customers who are coming in. And we actually rearranged this room in the shop, which we refer to as the living room. If you look at our older videos, you'll see we have a rack here. I'm sure people have seen it in multiple different scenarios because
Yep.
we do change it around. But for the sake of highlighting the Divas and how they can be utilized in a room, we said let's go really clean. Let's
Yeah.
just bring this BDI piece up here. There's nothing but decoration on top. There are no components.
Right.
And so, customers would come in and we would sit them at the sofa and say, hey, check out these new Divas. We would really not tell them anything about them.
Right.
Most people didn't really know much about them.
Right.
And say, have a listen. Let's put on a couple of tracks and see what you think.
Right.
And a few people, but not the majority, did pick up on there are no components or
Right.
assumed that the components were underneath here.
Right.
In
In the
doors
cabinets. Yeah. No.
But people are really, really impressed with what they're hearing from an active speaker. And I think like you and I are, other people don't really expect this level of sound from an active speaker.
Right. Right. This is Utopia level sound. So, the Focal Grand Utopias, how many people have walked in our shop and said, these are my bucket list. I'm sorry, I'm not able to buy them, but I would love to just hear these. They're on my bucket list. And I never thought of it like that way.
Yeah.
So of course we welcome anyone in to hear them. And so soon enough, you're going to be able to listen to the Divas as well. The beautiful thing is this is not necessarily a bucket list. In terms of high-end audio, these are easily within reach cost-wise. You would have to spend far more to build a separate system that sounds like this. Reference level sound plugged into the wall.
And one of the biggest telling signs of how much somebody is enjoying a speaker is how many tracks they continuously play on them.
Right.
So if they listen to one track and get up, you know, maybe
Right.
not the same thing as when they're continuously
6 and 7
six
tracks,
and seven
yeah.
tracks and just kind of sitting here enjoying themselves. And, you know, we see that on some speakers in the store,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, of
This
course.
is not the only scenario where we see that, but
Right.
it's really cool to see people with this active speaker kind of have that same reaction that
Yeah.
that they have from
Yeah.
some of our very, very high-end speakers, like the Utopias.
And go, yeah, and they're
Brand
going,
Utopias.
and they're going back and they're playing, you know, music. The one guy played Crimson and Clover, you know. I mean, so going back to some of these, you know, these favorites, and you know, it's that's really interesting. Focal name has really done something special here, and I'm excited. I'm very excited to see. I can't wait for the new colors. This is something that you guys should check out. You need to hear it in person. This is a new chapter for the audiophile world, and I think that this can grow our world. I think this puts truly high-end audio within reach for a lot more people. Bravo, Focal name.
Very well done. They named it the Diva. Has a lot to live up to with that name.
Yeah.
And like I always say, the Diva has arrived. Welcome back, everybody. I want to give you guys an overview of the brains of the system, or the DSP, to show you how it works and how simple it is to get the best sound out of your new Diva Utopias. So we start by just going right to the Focal Name America app. And then once there, we can simply click on Settings, and right there, you'll have a list of options that will come up. We're going to select Room Correction and New Calibration, or if you've already done it once and want to modify it, you can click on Modify Calibration. So I'm going to go, for the sake of this video, to New Calibration. Then we're going to select either meters or feet. I could use either one, but I'll select feet and start. So once we're here, it's going to start, and it's really going to walk you right through it. Almost like any setup wizard that we're used to using on any new device, that's pretty much what's going to happen. Although it's not called setup wizard, I think you get the idea. It's very simple. It's going to walk you through every step of the way. So we'll put in our parameters for the back wall. So it just says input the distance between the front of the speaker and the back wall. So it's very simple. The only thing you have to do is a little bit of measurement, and then we're going to click on Next. And again, for the sake of this video and simplicity, I'm just going to use the default distances that show up here, but you would put in what is applicable to your room. Now we're going to measure the sidewall, click Next, and then we're going to do the distance apart between the speakers. Okay? Now we're going to do the distance between the speakers and you as the listener, and then we're going to start the room symmetry listening test. And simply what you're going to do on this test, and it guides you right through, is you're just going to do your best to center the signal between the two speakers. So if it's sounding like it's slightly off to the right, you would adjust it into the left, or vice versa. Once you're satisfied with the sound, you click Next, and you hear a different tone is coming up. So now we're going to move to the second test. And this again, we're going to center this between the two speakers, just a different tone. We hear a different tone, and we're going to do the same thing again. You can see step 4, step 5, and step 6. And so these are all the same tests using different tones. Okay, now we're going to go into tonal balance, and we're going to start this test. So this is going to correct any imbalances in the room at different frequencies. Start the test. So in this test, all we're going to do is adjust either up or down, and we want that first tone and that second tone to essentially sound like it's at the same volume. And you'll just adjust it till you think that they sound as close in volume as possible. And we're going to move through all these tests. They are essentially the same test again, just different frequencies. And that is it. Setup complete. It's very simple, very straightforward. All right, everybody, here is your first view of the backside of the Diva Utopia. You can probably see with the camera angle that we have here a little bit of the heat sink inspired by the name statement. And then below this, these are all of our connection ports. So of course the power is right here, the power plug. And then this would be your Ethernet port right above it. And then if you did want to link the two speakers together via the cable, you would use this port right here. And then if you have a CD player or your turntable that you want to hook up to the Diva Utopias, you can utilize the analog input right here.
So the speaker link, of course, connects the two speakers in a primary-secondary configuration. That is switchable. So if you need your main speaker with all of the controls on one side of the room or the other, that's an easy setting. The network, so that's to the wall. USB, if you have a hard drive with music on it, you can plug it in right here, or a thumb drive, a friend brings music over, you can plug that in and then browse that on the app. The analog inputs, so these are, and they're a very good quality RCA connection. So at the show, we connected our turntable up to it. So with the app, we have all of the streaming services, but this gives us the option of adding a legacy device to the system. HDMI and audio return channel. So coming out of your television, you can route the audio directly to the speaker through the audio return channel HDMI port, which makes this a very versatile speaker for integrating into the home. So as you saw it here in the room, that TV, watching Netflix, Apple TV, watching movies, sounded absolutely great. The floating ground, so noise issues, anything can be mitigated right there. Here is the pairing button. So the only time you're really going to use the pairing button is if you had to, say, do a hard reset of the whole system and you're going to pair the speakers together again wirelessly. That's what you're going to use that for. Optical input, so that's good. You have a CD player, some other source, and you want to handle the digital audio using the internal DACs. So, by the way, every driver has its own DAC chip, basically. So the MP800 streaming module that you have in all of the named devices is also present here, but each driver complement has its own pathway. So the DACs inside, I think they sound pretty similar to the 200 and 300 New Classic Series digital to analog conversion, so I like that a heck of a lot. Here, of course, is the power cable, and that's basically it. So the secondary speaker doesn't have this complement, so you just decide where this one needs to be in your room and you're set.
Well, that wraps up our video on the Diva Utopia. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, we ask that you like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And please leave your comments down below. We want to continue to bring content to you that's valuable and that you enjoy watching. So leave your comments, let us know what we're doing well. And if you are in the area and want to hear some utopias, Diva Utopias, come on by the shop.